Welcome our own Jamieson Woods.
I want to thank Mary and Norman for their consistent and non-dying commitment to Clover year after year after year. And I also want to thank all of you for showing up on this beautiful sunny day. I know sometimes that, sunshine is a great commodity around here, and we want to get as much of it as we can before the rains. Anyway, this is a story. Can you hear me? Yeah? This is a story from my childhood, of course. That's the best. The classroom contest. For some odd reason, our teacher, Miss Hunt, seemed to think that hygiene was a subject she should impress upon our young developing minds. Her lectures about the use of deodorant, wearing clean clothes, refraining from picking our noses, and keeping our hands clean were all embedded in the typical curriculum of math, history, writing, reading, and the social sciences. Now, class, the pioneers may not have had running water, but we do. You all need to bathe regularly now that you're 11 years old. Or you can do your math facts in your head as you wash your hands. If you do the times table up to 9 while you scrub, your hands will be good and clean. If we were caught picking our noses, Miss Hunt would make us go and wash our hands to the count of 1,000. If we came back to class and our hands weren't obviously red from excessive scrubbing, she would send us back to the bathroom to perform the task again. She herself was very clean. Each day she wore a similar-looking, neat, two-piece suit of solid color with a white, crisp blouse under the jacket. Her shoes were low heels and slingbacks in the warmer months. She always wore nylons, never bare legs, even when the temperatures reached 80 degrees in the late June. Since this was a Catholic school, we all wore uniforms. The boys wore blue shirts and gray pants. The girls wore a navy tunic with a white blouse underneath. I had one tunic and 2 white blouses. My blouses got washed every weekend, but the tunic was dry cleaned 2 or 3 times a school year. I don't think Miss Hunt would have approved. One of my classmates, Mary Hannigan, had several tunics. You could tell because the buttons were different, that she wore with a fresh, clean blouse every day. Once in a while, she would wear a dress to school, stating that all her tunics were in the dry cleaning. Her dresses were always frilly and various pastel colors, even in the winter. I don't think she ever wore the same dress twice. She was an only child, and her parents doted on her. Her long, curly hair was always clean and styled with barrettes and ribbons. My long, straight hair was long and straight and dishwater blonde. Each morning, one of my sisters would brush it out and pull it into a tight ponytail, a ritual I hated since they seemed to enjoy my protests as they tugged my hair. Mary would whisper about me behind my back, about how all my clothes were hand-me-downs since I was the youngest of 6, that my socks and panties just came from a big pile in the laundry room. How she knew this, I'll never know. However, I did have one up on her. I was smart. I could recite the catechism verses to perfection. I could do math facts in my head. I was the first to answer history facts and could read way beyond my grade level. The only subject I was poor in was penmanship. One day in January, Miss Hunt announced that there was going to be a contest in the classroom to see who could have the nicest fingernails. She had seen several of us biting our nails, a nasty habit, she stated, that not only looked terrible but spread germs. Starting today, we had 2 weeks in which to grow out our nails and shape them into nice round tips with an emery board. The prize was to be a book chosen by the winning child from the book club that our classroom subscribed to. She walked around the room row by row and showed all of us her hands, explaining how each day she cleaned under her nails and then filed them to keep them neat. Mary raised her hand and said, "My mother paints her nails." "That's for other women, but not for me," was Miss Hunt's response. My heart sank. I looked down at my own bitten nails. Hangnails picked to the point of bleeding. 2 weeks was not enough for my nails to grow out. I'd probably been chewing my nails since I first got teeth. It was a habit so ingrained in me. I woke up with my fingers in my mouth and then a mixture of blood and saliva on my pillow. But I also love to read, and a brand new book from the book club would be quite a treat for me. My mother never bought books from the book club because she said we had enough books at home, plus there was the library. I thought a book from the Nancy Drew series sounded like fun. In our house, we only had books that my mother considered to be literature. Titles such as The Yearling, Robinson Crusoe, and Wind in the Willows donned our shelves. My mother said the Nancy Drew series was common and not good writing. I thought about my fingernails and how I could break myself the habit of chewing them. It was so automatic I didn't even really notice what I was doing it until it hurt. That might make me pull my finger out of my mouth, but then I still had 9 more fingernails to chew. My first idea was to wear gloves. I had a pair of white gloves that I wore at church in the warm months. They were light. Surely I could write and use my hands for other tasks, while at the same time protecting my fingers from being chewed. I snuck my gloves into my pocket because I knew full well my mother would not approve of me taking my good gloves to school. When I got to school, I put my gloves on and sat at my desk. "What have you got in your hands?" my neighbor whispered to me. "Gloves," I whispered back, and pretended to bite my nails and shook my head. "Good idea," my friend said back. I managed to keep my gloves on for most of the morning without any repercussions until writing. Then I got out my fountain pen and my notebook. Miss Hunt was by my side. "Jennifer, you cannot wear gloves for writing. Your writing is illegible enough without the impediment that gloves would give you." She held out her hand. I removed the gloves and gave them to her. Would she give them back to me? During writing, I put my index finger of my left hand into my mouth and nibbled away. Before long, I chewed every fingernail on my left hand. There were a few smears on the left side of my paper as I tried my best. When the end of the school day came, I went and asked for my gloves. Miss Hunt said, "Jennifer, it may be impossible to bite your nails with gloves on. It's also not practical in school. Your penmanship is bad enough without the gloves. Please leave them at home. What you need to do is be strong and say to yourself, I must not bite my nails, I must not bite my nails." That night, I went into the medicine cabinet and got out a box of Band-Aids. Before I left for school, I put a Band-Aid at the end of each finger. This worked very well until Mary Hannigan tattled on me during math. Jennifer was picking her nose, I saw her. I was sent to the washroom to scrub my hands to the count of 1,000. During the rigorous scrubbing, many of the Band-Aids came off the tips of my fingers. By the end of the day, I was back to chewing my nails again. At home that night, I asked my favorite sister what she thought might help. She said she'd heard that to get a little kid to stop sucking his or her thumb, that people put yucky tasting stuff on it. Like what, I asked? Mustard, horseradish vinegar. I'm not sure, but you could try that. The next day, I got the jar of mustard out of the fridge and stuck it into my pocket before school. At school, I put the jar in my desk and took the lid off. I carefully dipped each fingertip into the mustard and went about my school day. The girl in front of me asked what the smell was, and I told her, "Turn around, it's nothing." First subject was math. I was able to keep my fingers out of my mouth the whole time. Maybe this was going to work. Then we had silent reading. I was deep into Beautiful Joe, a book about an abused dog who was rescued by a kind girl. I was so engrossed in the book, I found myself mindlessly chewing past the mustard to my fingernails. Maybe mustard wasn't a bad enough flavor for me. The next day, I tried horseradish. I knew I didn't like the taste of this. In fact, I thought it was horrid. I thought even the smallest amount of the wretched tasting stuff would keep me from chewing my fingernails. When I opened the jar at my desk, no one said a thing. I daubed some on the tip of each finger. I could feel the sting on my raw flesh of my chewed up fingertips. It didn't stick very well, and some slipped off onto the floor. Several kids around me made comments. "Ew, what's that stink? Smells like dirty feet. What's on the floor?" Miss Hunt was at my desk within seconds. "Jennifer, what have you got on your desk?" I looked at her, but I didn't want to respond, so I just played dumb. One of the kids pointed to the white glob on the floor. "It looks like bird poop." Miss Hunt told me to stand beside my desk as she bent over to look inside. Then she found the jar of horseradish. "Jennifer, what is this?" "Horseradish sauce," I said. "And why do you have horseradish sauce in your desk?" she asked. "Because I like it," I said. "You like it?" "Uh-huh," I responded. "I don't believe you," she said. "Show me, eat some." I put my finger into the jar and pulled out a small glob. More than that, she said. I put my finger into the jar and fished out a big glob, as big as I could hold on my finger. All the kids around me were going, ew, the whole class was looking at me. I put the glob of horseradish into my mouth, and immediately my eyes started to water. I thought I was going to vomit. I was not going to let Ms. Hunt and the whole class have the privilege of seeing me get sick. Instead, I swallowed the glob, smiled as best I could. I said, Jennifer, I do not want to see horseradish or any other food items in your desk. Do you hear? Totally humiliated, I had to go through the rest of the day with neighs and horse snorts directed at me. At home that night, I talked with my sister again. She said, why do you bite your nails anyway? I don't know, it's just a habit, I guess. How about a new habit, she asked. Like what? How about a bracelet to twirl or a ring to wear on your finger? How about both, I asked her. I went to school the next day wearing my sister's charm bracelet and her birthstone ring. During math, I fidgeted with the jewelry and kept my fingers out of my mouth. During reading, I twirled the ring and read Beautiful Joe. During writing, I felt the bracelet clink on my desk. As I completed my assignment, it worked. I was set. I could feel my fingernails grow. That night at home, my mother noticed the jewelry. Why are you wearing your sister's good jewelry? She asked me. To my sister, she said, why did you loan Jennifer your jewelry? Then the whole story came out about the fingernail contest at school. I even included the gloves, the horseradish, the humiliation. My mother just listened for a while. Then she went to her purse. She took out her checkbook and wrote a check for $100 with my name on it. Then she said, Jennifer, if you can stop chewing your nails in a month, you can have this check. I couldn't believe it. My tightwad mother was offering me $100 to stop chewing my nails. This was way more than what Miss Hunt had to offer. I could buy a whole bunch of books with that money. I could buy myself some clothes. I could maybe buy those beautiful ice skates that I really wanted. I'd be rich. I could do it. I could stop chewing my nails. In February, my mother and I sat down at the table. Okay, let's see those nails, she said to me. I held out my hands, and there at the tips were small crescent nails and intact skin. I had given up chewing my nails for good. She handed me the check, and the next day we went to the bank to cash it. As for the classroom contest, of course Mary Hannigan won. I felt nauseous as she told the class about how she cleaned her nails every day with a nail brush and filed them just a little bit to keep them in good shape. Before she sat at her desk, she looked right at me. I stuck out my tongue. She sat down in her seat, raised her hand, and said, Jennifer just stuck her tongue out at me.
Thank you.